young man who was accused of being involved in the terror plot.
That's right, Layla. Around the country, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who are on the counter-terrorism watch list. And police say radicalised Aussie kids who grew up here and were educated here are among that group. Tonight, the suspects, the foiled plots, and the growing threat right here at home. Are you a potential terrorist?
He asked me to buy a list of ingredients to make an explosive belt.
Who done terror here? My son or government? Who done terror?
The 18-year-old was picked up by counter-terrorism police.
It is disturbing how young some of these people are.
Ici par milliers. Par milliers, par milliers.
A 12-year-old is on a list being monitored in relation to terrorist activity.
You don't know what's going to suddenly trigger them.
Suburban school kids transformed into terror teens.
It was perpetrated by a 15-year-old boy.
What causes a young man or woman to wake up one morning and say, this is the last day of my life, and I'm going to take as many of these with me as possible?
They're homegrown, fueled with hate, and prepared to kill.
These acts are truly evil.
Tonight, teenage terrorists, the suspects, the foiled plots, and the young man police are monitoring closely. They put a strict order on you because they thought it might prevent a terrorist attack. What was your son doing with all those weapons? Deadly weapons?
This is for fishing weapons.
For fishing?
This was in his
business. He was going to gut some fish, was he, with those?
That's it. He find me fish.
Plus, undercover and inside a terror cell.
He sends a final message. You're a dead man.
The extraordinary hidden camera footage of ISIS recruiters overseas. How they brainwash the young, plan their attacks, and get away with it. This is terror as we've never seen before here in Australia. Radicalised teenage martyrs, young Aussies who are booking a date with death. It's even more chilling when you think some of them are only children, and it's leading them to one of the most dangerous missions of all, lone wolf attacks.
It's really difficult to stop them.
Assistant Commissioner Ross Gunther from Victoria Police is head of counter-terrorism.
We do know that even examples in the United Kingdom, they've had radicalised young people in as little a period of 7 days.
How does the brainwashing start?
The initial contact points come through social media, so that could be through online gaming sites that have a worldwide context.
You won't see my face. You won't hear my real voice. I'm a Muslim and a journalist. I can go to places that my colleagues can't.
And this is the unbelievable 6-month undercover investigation by a Muslim journalist who has risked everything by infiltrating a terror network in France. The reporter secretly filmed his meetings with Islamic State supporters, which revealed chilling details of a planned attack on French soil.
In the letter are the instructions for the operation, and it's mind-blowing. We'd need 1 or 2 suicide bombers inside. Once he's inside, he can wait until it's filling up, and then he can go for it.
It's a shocking insight into just how easily the young are turning to terror, and it's also happening here in Australia.
Behind the faces of ISIS's young assassins, I see lost, frustrated, suicidal boys, easily manipulated.
Bring it home to a domestic environment where innocent people are impacted by it. That's a paradigm shift.
This is the man police allege was one of the architects of a sinister plan.
A plot to behead and shoot police officers in Melbourne on Anzac Day last year was thwarted in these pre-dawn raids. Sevdet Besim pleaded guilty to planning the terrorist attack. At just 18 years old, he says he wanted to die a martyr for Islamic State.
They're young, they're easily radicalised, they're easily led by people who sell them a great dream.
David Chalk is one of Australia's leading social analysts.
What the teen marketers are thinking is that they will elevate their importance to themselves and to the rest of the world. They're obviously feeling aggrieved, they're obviously feeling that they're not being shown sufficient respect.
This is Besim's close friend, Harun Korsovic. He was also arrested over the Anzac Day plot and charged with conspiring to plan or prepare for a terror attack. But the charge was later dropped due to insufficient evidence. He has pleaded guilty to 3 weapons offences though, including possessing an AK-47 knife that police found under his bed. What were you planning to do with all those weapons? Can you be trusted? Did you know what your son was up to?
Yeah, I know him very well.
Did you know about the weapons?
Yeah, I know.
Did you know he was friends with Hader? And
Yeah, I did.
And you're
What's wrong with that?
You're not concerned as a parent about that?
No.
Harun Korcevic has had restrictions imposed on him by a court. He must live with his parents, he can't go near army bases, he's been banned from accessing extremist material online, and he's only allowed to worship in one mosque. Police still think he's a threat.
Look, I can't comment actually on Mr. Korcevic's matter because he's still subject to a control order from the federal court. So.
What we can say is that the AFP's Assistant Commissioner, Neil Gagan, said he thinks 19-year-old Korcevic remains a risk to the public.
I believe for at least as long as Mr. Korcevic remains unable to travel overseas to fight for Islamic State, his focus and plans must remain on carrying out a terrorist act in Australia.
Harun, do you support terrorism? Are you potentially a teen terrorist? In an intercepted phone call with the passport office, Harun Korcevic grew irritated when he asked who was investigating his passport application.
It's probably ASIO or AFP, huh? Can you tell ASIO those pieces of to call me? I want to talk to them. Little Australian piece of doing my life in.
Harun was also friends with Newman Hader, a radicalised 18-year-old who was shot dead by police in 2014 after stabbing 2 officers outside a Melbourne police station. What Korcevic, Besim and Hader all have in common is they were all linked to the controversial Islamic Studies Centre, Al Furqan, in Melbourne's Springvale. It's since been shut down. I mean, what about the people you've been hanging out with? One of your mates was going to commit a horrible, evil act. Can anyone trust you? But Harun's dad says his son is completely innocent. Would your son ever be involved in a terrorist plot?
Never.
So why was your son hanging out with the likes of Newman Hader? And
What's wrong with Newman Hader? What's wrong if you be friends?
Are you kidding me?
What's wrong if you be friends with Newman Hader?
He tried to kill police officers.
Where is that police? Who see that police?
He stabbed police officers.
Who see?
So you're saying that's a conspiracy?
This is not true.
Okay.
That's not true, believe me.
We got a problem here. I mean, can you throw people in jail for what they're thinking? No, you can't.
Terror expert Professor Joseph Siracusa.
We don't really have a handle on what parents should be looking for. It's now become a matter of eternal vigilance. I mean, Australia is committed for this generation to make sure that our own people don't kill us.
In Victoria alone, there are currently more than 300 people on counter-terrorism's watch list. The unit is constantly monitoring and collecting intel on potential suspects. You've foiled terror plots that the public doesn't even know about.
That's correct.
It's happening around the country. Children turning to terror.
The young, certainly in those early ages of adolescence, have a very short-term view of the world. It's all about me, here, now.
Last October, 15-year-old teen terrorist Fahad Jabbar shot dead New South Wales police accountant Curtis Cheng. Jabbar was killed in a firefight with police afterwards. And in April this year, a 16-year-old boy was charged, accused of being in the advanced stages of planning a terror attack on Anzac Day in Sydney.
They have a somewhat depressive and egocentric personality. They are not necessarily sociopaths, but they certainly have no empathy.
So what's going so horribly wrong? What's causing the hate?
They don't see a hope of a future in Australia. They think their life in Australia is at a dead end.
Muslim community leader Kazar Trad is founder of the Islamic Friendship Association of Australia.
One of the most important things for young people is to find a sense of belonging. And if we can't give them that sense of belonging, then of course they're going to struggle and they're going to look for it elsewhere.
Ask, what is Islam? Because Islam is peace.
We spoke to these young Aussie men who are part of a Muslim youth group. They say they're horrified at the terror attacks carried out in the name of Islam.
Yeah, I feel angry about it because, as I said, it doesn't represent us at all.
It's a battle trying to
explain to the ones that haven't associated with Muslims before, haven't heard of Islam before, haven't met a Muslim before.
And it is very damaging to not only the reputation of Islam, but the ability of Islam to bring salvation to more people.
Do you feel lucky that those charges were dropped? Do you support terrorism? Have you been radicalised, Harun?
We have no idea who the bad guys are. They might not even have been born yet, or they might be 8 or 9 years old now.
Can your son be trusted?
I trust him too much. Because I know who...
Can the public trust your son? What's going to happen with the
Everybody.
control orders up in September? Can he be trusted?
Always. Why not?
When will this threat be over?
I don't think the threat's likely to be over in my lifetime or your lifetime.
The federal government has poured millions of dollars into de-radicalisation programs around the country, and you can read a statement from the Attorney General's office on our website.